Hello everyone, welcome to the tavern. This is the Player of X, and today we're going to go over one of the more interesting characters that you can find in a tavern, the Bounty Hunter. This is a guide for DMs and role players on how they should go about their bounty hunters. Now, first things first we should go over is, what is a bounty hunter? So, bounty hunters collect bounties, rewards for, let's say, evil, more nefarious enemies. They go about and capture brigands or bandits who are attacking helpless settlements. They could be monster hunters going about and getting rid of some nastier maybe monsters in the area, such as griffins or maybe dragons. Bounty hunters stalk their prey. They learn information. They're a lot like Geralt from The Witcher. And they do this for money, maybe for justice, maybe to right some wrongs. But for the most part, they do this for money. They stand by a code, dead or alive, depending on which type of bounty hunter we're talking about. And they're just around to wet their coin purse. So, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's start with the Barbarian. So, the Barbarian bounty hunter could be a revenge seeker. Rage fueled by revenge. Maybe bandits attack their town or something, and through their rage they go about and attack and collect the bounties on these wrongdoers. It's kind of like a paladin almost, but fueled by their rage. But they could be also a monster hunter. Hunts beasts for bounties, and really only the crazy people would go after demons and dragons and all sorts of alien creatures in the world. So you'd have to be a barbarian to go hunt these type of creatures. More than likely, they're using the money just as an excuse, saying they're doing this for something better, but really it's just a way for them to flex their muscle. And I would say more than likely, our barbarian would capture their targets dead, not alive. Next up, we have the bard. A bard bounty hunter wishes to learn more about their targets, wishes to tell the tales of this person who would stoop so low. More than likely, they would take the bounty alive to learn their tales and tell about these tell tall tales of these evil people, something like a Jack the Ripper type, and spread their tales across the land through capturing them and of course making some money along the way. They're more interested in the storytelling aspect of the bounty and less about actually some sense of justice. They care more about the tales behind these nefarious people. Next up, we have the Cleric. The Cleric bounty hunter. The Cleric bounty hunter is compelled by their god to seek out and capture evil. Could be they need an exorcist or some type of holy person that needs to deal with this blight or some kind. It could be that they are working for a god of justice or even greed, honestly. The Cleric bounty hunter is going out there and collecting money for their church, maybe to rebuild it of some kind. This is I would say maybe more chaotic than lawful type of bounty hunter, as they are doing this mostly for personal gain. But they could do it out of a sense of justice, but I see that more as a paladin thing, more than anything. They could have found faith during turning in a bounty for the first time of some kind. Maybe they, before they became a cleric, they turned in a bounty and they found their faith in bringing about evil into justice. And more than likely, a cleric would capture their target alive. Next up is the Druid. So the Druid is interesting because they're definitely not doing this for money. A bounty hunter who may just want to protect their land. Many brigands and bandits and outlaws, they make their settlements in forests and outcroppings away from civilization, and Druids can't really have that. They can't have these groups of roaming outlaws just roaming their lands, chopping up their wood and creating fortresses. So they do this out of a sense of protection. They probably use the coin to repair their land, or to have more people helping guard their land or keep the border safe around their lands. They could see outlaws as a blight on the land. They're just there to squat and take and kill any animals that are in the area. Also, another idea for the druid is a sea druid, one who protects the oceans. And, well, pirates enjoy shooting cannons and blowing up other ships, which can destroy the ecosystem, so they could be like a pirate killer. Druid bounty hunters probably, depending on the situation, will capture dead or alive, depending on the type of druid. But I could see them just killing out bounties and having someone else go into town and collect the bounty for them. Next up is the fighter, trained by birth to capture and apprehend outlaws. Probably the most well-trained, using traps and an assortment of weapons to capture. A cool idea would be a town guard, such as one who was a fighter and saw justice failed so many times and so many people getting away just because they have some money or because they have the right connections, and they now are taking the law into their own hands, kind of like a Judge Dredd type of bounty hunter. Now, we have to play into the fact that fighters are very well trained. They are trained in all sorts of weapons. They are trained for grueling combat and stuff, so they are the very much kick down the door, you're coming with me type. And I would say the fighter, more than anyone, would capture the target alive. If it's a person, they would definitely try to capture it alive, because that's how skillful they are, that they can take down a target and still collect the most. They would obviously use their money for better equipment and better tools. Next up is the monk. The monk is kind of the same idea as the fighter. Raised from birth, born to stop criminals. Monks fight with their weapons and with their bodies, so they're easier to blend into the crowd. Maybe even join whatever outlaw that they're trying to capture. Since their body is a weapon, it's much less obvious when the fighter kicks down the door than the monk, who is just standing one of many in a crowd or is dressed as a peasant. Maybe they're using their money to rebuild the monastery, it's kind of like the cleric. And since they're using their hands to fight, I would say that the monk probably captures alive. The monk is one of the harder bounty hunter ideas. So if you have any ideas on a monk bounty hunter, please add it in the comments. Next up is the Paladin, the Holy Avenger, the Hand of Justice. A Paladin bounty hunter is chosen by their god to seek out those wrongdoers, the outlaws and the criminals. The Paladin might be seen by people as a shining beacon of hope in, a very crime-ridden area. The Paladin shows up to collect the bounties on these people, and people might be excited and overjoyed. Kind of like a Superman almost, descending onto this crime-ridden place to rid them of evil and, collect some money along the way. Or people might fear the Paladin bounty hunter as a zealot, single-minded, plate-mailed bringer of death, doing what they want and not obeying the laws of the land because they're here on some apparently higher mission and stuff. And it could be like a boogeyman tale that criminals tell each other of, the paladin who's gonna kidnap you, or mothers tell their kids, don't commit evil deeds, or this paladin's gonna come and capture you and stuff. More than likely the Paladin captures dead, probably, I would say. They're here to rid the land of justice, of criminals in the name of justice, and they see themselves as the justice, not the law of the land. But, it depends on the type of Paladin you are playing. Next up is the Ranger, the classic bounty hunter. Much like a Mandalorian or a Cowboy Ranger of the type, Rangers use every trick in the book. Traps, weapons, hit and run tactics, deception, and even magic to assault the bounty. This is probably the go-to bounty hunter class. So it's literally the very spitting image of a bounty hunter. I mean, like, using nets and traps and snares and pit traps and all this stuff. This is the ranger's forte. He knows the area of the land. He's very easy to follow the tracks of the target and, ambush them and stuff like that. And of course, the ranger is using the money to purchase more snares and better equipment, much like the Mandalorian, getting paid to get better equipment. More than likely, the ranger is whatever's best fit for the job, to be honest, capturing dead or alive, depending on the situation and their understanding of how these people work. But, of course, a ranger would want to capture alive because it just shows their skill. Like, even how hard a target is, they can still capture this target alive. The go-to, I would say, for bounty hunters. Next up is the rogue. The rogue is the infiltrator. The rogue bounty hunter are most likely Agent 47, disguising themselves, entering bandit hideouts as a new recruit, or, just another one of the people on duty there. If you ever played the Hitman games, dressing as a janitor and stuff like that and sneaking in. They attack the bounties when they're most vulnerable, when they've let their guard down in their camps, thinking they're safe from any type of law. That's when the rogue bounty hunter strikes. Probably does it all for the money. That's about it. Maybe even the fame, you could say, as being a top assassin or a killer. But they literally do this for money and nothing else. They don't really have a sense of justice. Maybe a corrupted sense of justice, maybe like a Batman or something. But they do it for the money. And more than likely, they get their targets dead. Kill them, extract the bodies, and keep going. Next up is the sorcerer. So the sorcerer, it's one of those ideas of just because magic runs through your vein and it's natural to you doesn't mean that's gonna put bread on the table. That's not gonna feed you. A gifted and charismatic magic user, this bounty hunter might use otherworldly charms, you would say, spells to get the upper hand against the target. Things like charming spells or turning allies against the target. They use their overwhelming power of charisma and their magical powers to get the upper hand, to infiltrate places, and again, let the kind of like the rogue, let the bounty have their guard down, and that's when they strike. Maybe kind of like a seductress in a way, but more magically inclined. And of course, if anything goes wrong, sorcerers are very powerful and they will just nuke a whole bandit camp if necessary. Next up is the warlock. So the warlock, the dark pacts require sacrifices. The need of flesh and bones to the patron. This bounty hunter is probably seen like a reaper. Again, told like a boogeyman to other bandits and outlaws, or mothers telling their kids not to commit crimes as this warlock comes and takes your body away. He uses the excuse of capturing dead or alive to commit blood sacrifices, and then dumping off the body somewhere for some easy cash, right? Using the loophole in justice to enact dark god's wishes. More than likely, the warlock is going to capture the target alive to kill at a later date. Now, for a less evil interpretation of the warlock, honestly, it's up to their patron. It depends on what their patron wants. Deep old ones, who knows what great cosmic beings want with some random bounty, some random outlaw in the world. Or maybe the warlock goes around and enacting, let's say, how do you put this? They're debt collectors for patrons. They know another warlock has not given their respect to their god or given their monthly quota of sacrifices, and they go around capturing and collecting the bounties on other warlocks for their patron, which would be very interesting. Last up is the wizard. The wizard is the detective, only looking for the hardest and most deadly of bounties. The wizard bounty hunter is a specialist, much like a Sherlock Holmes type, using the power of magic to solve crimes, scrying spells to watch the target, such things like that. They're gonna watch their target for days on end, learning their patterns and when best to strike them. And this is a very collective and very calm individual. And when the wizard strikes finally at the target, it's very quick and very efficient. They have the power of magic on their side to capture, and they're very intelligent. They're not going to go into a situation that is bad for them. The gold, fuels their study and deeper and stronger magics. And more than likely, the wizard would also capture based on situation, dead or alive. If it's a monster, a beast that they don't think they could capture, then they would more likely kill it. Same thing with a bandit. If they're too much of a trouble and it's too much work, they would just stand outside their fortress and just rain fireballs in, and then pick up the body and dump it off somewhere. So yeah, guys, that is bounty hunters. So they are very interesting to roleplay. They are I would say more of the Lone Ranger type, but easily enough. The reason they would work in a party is because numbers matter more, right? Going by yourself and collecting a bounty is fine, but with more people, this allows you to get larger bounties and more money, and it's safer to be in a group than by yourself. As for DMs out there, bounty hunters are very interesting to use against the party. If you have an evil character that is committing some heinous crimes, having a bounty hunter who's stalking them and following their tracks and learning about their specialties and their moves to strike when they're most vulnerable, maybe sleeping in a camp or something like that. That's how I would use a bounty hunter. But yeah, guys, that is the video. Leave your comments below, like and share the video, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys next time in the tavern. See ya.